The submarine crew members were either clearing equipment, cooking food, sleeping, or keeping an eye on the sonar. Report. The captain stated as he exited his cabin. The crew saluted their captain as he entered the command room. Nothing too unusually, sir. The sea is as dead as a graveyard. The XO, executive officer, of the ship reported. There was really nothing to report, and why would there be? The enemy didn't have submarines and their ships dared not to leave their harbors. Good, but keep an eye on the sonar. Also contact I-401 and get a report from them as well. However, before he could say anything more, the CMO, communications officer, walked up to him and whispered into his ear. Sir, one of our I-55 was attacked while they were submerged. They were forced to surface and beach the submarine. That was 4 days ago, sir. They managed to fix their radio a few hours ago. The captain of the ship stated that 10 enemy submarine-like vessels broke through our lines. He assumes that their targets could be the Southwater Tribe, Kyoshi Island, Whale Island, or Whirlpool itself. However, he believes that the target is Whirlpool Island itself due to the amount of ships. The officer said, "Contact the naval garrison at Kyoshi Island and alert all naval vessels. Find those enemy ships before they reach their targets," the captain ordered. The officer saluted as he started to walk back to his station. "Also, get me Admiral Uzumaki. His fleet is the closest to Whirlpool Islands. He might be able to help them in case of an attack," the captain said. The officer nodded before rushing off once again. Attack Whirlpool, and occupying it would shorten the war and they might possibly lose. With Aang. Aang was nervous. A few weeks ago they had managed to capture a Whirlpool reconnaissance squad. They had tried to ask them of information politely, but they didn't speak. So the Earth Kingdom's commanders had the squad tortured. The only thing they could get out of them was their names and military designation. A few days later all squad members died of severe torture. Aang did not like that one bit. He did not like to killing or fighting at all, which was funny since he was the Avatar. He had to fight to keep the world in balance. It didn't help that people in the city itself started to lose faith in him, mostly the poor. He needed to end this war and they now had a change to end it. 2 weeks ago Sokka had come up with a radical idea of attacking Whirlpool itself and demand their leader to surrender. After all, what leader won't surrender when the fear of death loomed over them? However, over the course of the month there were some surprising moments. The first was when Zuko and his uncle had joined them. This was a shock. When asked why, Zuko stated that the Fire Nation was finished and nothing could save it but the Avatar. However, that was not the only reason. You see, while he was traveling in his search for the Avatar, he had reflected over his life. His father had always praised his sister and berated him. His sister, who he loved so much when they were children, was now deranged with the lust for power, because of their father. His mother leaving was most likely his father's fault as well. In the end he figured that pleasing his father would lead to nothing, because in the end he was just a means to the endgame. A mere stone in a pond in the grand schemes of things, and he was ashamed of the things and decisions he had made during his life. So he chose to help the Avatar learn fire bending to fix that. His uncle supported him because he was part of the White Lotus Order. It was his job to protect the Avatar. Then there was his relationship with Katara. He didn't know what had happened, but he had started to fall for her, and during their time at the city they had grown closer. He even took her out to a few dates. It was one of the reasons why he was nervous today, because she was taking part in the invasion of Whirlpool. He had saved Katara's and Sokka's father and a few others from the boiling rock without getting caught by the Fire Nation or Whirlpool forces. Everyone was taking part in this invasion. The Earth King had offered 600 of his finest earthbenders to aid him in the invasion. However, more people did show up, mostly friends, and now they had a total of 800 skilled warriors ready to attack. They had acquired a map of Whirlpool through the squad they captured. It turned out that Whirlpool was a nation that consisted of island. However, the target island was the one that had one of the largest cities. The island of Uzushiogakur was the largest of the islands and was likely to be heavily defended. They were to land on a beach close to the royal palace and make their way to the palace and occupy it. They thought it would be easy since a vast majority of the enemy soldiers were on the front lines away from home, and that most of the people of these cities were normal people that didn't even know how to bend. What they didn't know was that almost all adults of Whirlpool cities were trained soldiers that were held back in reserves. "Aang, you okay?" Katara asked. Aang looked at her. She could tell that he was nervous because he had the biggest of the responsibility, to confront the ruler of Whirlpool before anyone else and kill him. That was a big task for anyone, but he could pull it off by sneaking into the palace via using his water bending. "I don't know, Katara. I don't know if I am ready. I have to kill someone to stop this war," Aang replied. His thoughts went back to Naruto. Truth is, he wanted to argue against Naruto and his belief, but deep down he knew that he could never take a life. He didn't know what to think. Aang was still a child, but so were many others who had fought in wars before. The Avatar created to keep balance, but was it really? Should the Avatar stop time to keep balance? Time was unstoppable, and so was the march of progress. The Avatar would no longer be needed one day should time go on and progress of man continue. He had seen only a bit of Whirlpool forces in action, but he knew they were far stronger than the Fire Nation. Why? Because they could not bend, and it was because of that inability that they chose to advance in other fields, and it was now in their nature to progress ahead. After all, human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step towards the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle, the tireless exertions and passionate concern of dedicated individuals. Naruto is one such individual. He wages a war to end all wars, to bring the world as one under a single banner, and he knew that Naruto had the confidence to do so. Naruto didn't attack one enemy like the Fire Nation did, nor did he aim to large victories. No. He was not fighting the military mights of different nations, he was turning the people of the said nations against them. The efforts might be small, however, success is the sum of small efforts, repeated day in and day out. The Fire Nation is at the brink of civil war, and there are mobs and riots at Ba Sing Se with people demanding the king to surrender. Everything is falling apart, and it will do so until Whirlpool is stopped. He looked at Katara and quickly kissed her. Katara happily kissed back. When they kissed, they would always kiss as if it was their last kiss. Aang pulled away and looked at her. Well, this is it. I'll see you when this is all over, and please stay alive. I don't want to lose you, Aang said. Katara nodded with a smile. Aang quickly got on Appa and took off into the sky. They were close to Whirlpool, and the invasion would start very soon. Uzu Naval HQ, Uzushiogakur, Whirlpool. What? Are you telling me that 10 unknown enemy subs got past your defenses? What do you mean your sonar couldn't detect them? Look, order all naval assets on high alert surrendering Whirlpool Islands. We cannot allow the enemy to breach our defenses. Defense of our homeland takes top. The commander of the base was cut short when he heard an explosion. He looked out into the harbor and his eyes widened. Sir, the Iowa and Missouri have been hit. Their hull were breached and the magazines were hit. They're sinking, sir. An officer reported. I can see that, damn it. Order all ships to exit the harbor, and get those men out of the water, he ordered. Soon more explosions were heard. A cargo ship filled with fuel was hit, causing it to go up in flames and causing fire on nearby ships. It was hell. The harbor was filled with smoke and fire. Sir, enemy landing crafts have been sighted at the West Beach. They are unloading men and seem to be heading to the Royal Palace. An officer replied as he rushed in. God damn it. Get the city on high alert and mobilize those reserves. Our first priority is to defend the palace and get the non-combatants out of the city. Get me Air Commodore Takao Susumu on the line now, he ordered. Soon the radio came to life. This is Air Commodore Takao Susumu. What's going on? Why are the alarms going off? The Commodore asked. We are under attack, I repeat. We are under attack. We are going to need some close air support. Can you order your pilots to provide air support? He asked. Roger, I'll get my sir. Enemy soldiers spotted on the runways. They're earth-bending our runways, sir. God damn it. Kill those dame benders and clear those runways as fast as you can. Sorry, Commander, but it seems like the enemy has this well planned out. I cannot provide air support until our runways are cleared. The Commodore replied before cutting the line. Sir, 860 combat-ready personals are at the ready. The local squad leaders are setting up defenses near the palace. Also, the non-combatants are being evacuated out of the city. Also, Admiral Naruto's fleet is approaching. He's ordered his fleet to look for any other enemy vessels. He himself is coming here, sir. A radio man replied. The base commander sighed in relief. At least they would be getting some help. With Naruto could see the smoke rising from the harbor. It was just a few moments ago that he was informed of the enemy attack. He clenched his hands into a fist. The enemy had attacked his homeland, and the fact that their aim was most likely to kill his mother only added fuel to his rage. He would not allow this to go on any further. He quickly ordered all benders to prepare for landing. He himself was going on ahead to the palace. This was a surprise attack, meaning that most of Whirlpool forces were caught off guard. They were most likely close to the palace. He jumped off the ship and started to run on the water. Main Street to the palace. Hold the line, damn it. The squad leader ordered. The soldiers laid down suppressing fire, but the enemy earthbender had made wall to protect their forces as they advanced. Then all of a sudden there was a big boom that destroyed the wall. They looked back to see a tiger tank. "Helly, now we're talking," a soldier cried out. The tank fired once more, ripping through the wall and killing a few enemies. However, they didn't notice a few earthbenders getting behind the tank. They quickly bended the earth and launched 5 boulders at the rear of the tank. The tiger, being too slow to react, was hit and the fuel went off, causing the tank to catch fire. "Shit! They're behind us." Quickly they opened fire, cutting down the earthbenders in a hail of bullets. "We have to fall back. There are too many benders," a soldier yelled out. "We are not moving from this position. We will hold this line," the squad leader cried out. "But sir, squads 3, 5, 7, and 9 are all wiped out. We have to fall back and meet up with the other squads," the soldier yelled back. Soon the radio came to life. "This is Garrison Commander, Isao Jun speaking. All units are to fall back to Sector B9 and set up defenses. Company A has been completely annihilated by a surprise enemy landing forces from their rear. I repeat, 6 more enemy vessels have landed on the East Beach," the commander ordered. All squads and units fell back. "Company A, wiped out? That means the only thing standing in between the enemy and the palace are 3 companies," a soldier said. Everyone else nodded. This was no random attack. This was an invasion force and the enemy had come in force. Palace. Everyone was on edge. The enemy was at the gates, and if their forces didn't hold, then the palace would be breached. However, if that happened, then it would be a bloodbath for the enemy, because the palace is where the Uzu Black Ops HQ was located at. The enemy would have to face elite Whirlpool soldiers if they wanted to kill their leader. They would also have to face an enraged Mito. Yes, Mito had arrived to Whirlpool a few days ago to relax, and now the Avatar had ruined her small vacation. She was about to head out and just bury the enemies with her golden chains. However, she spotted a bald boy with arrows heading towards the throne room. She quickly formed golden chains and blocked the boy's path. Well, look who we have here. "So Avatar, what are you doing all the way here away from the front line?" she asked with an insane smirk. Aang gulped. He didn't know who this girl was, but her smirk reminded him of Naruto. She launched the golden chains at him. He quickly dodged them and sent a blast of wind at her. Mito formed a dome of chains in front of her to block the wind blast. Aang jumped back and was getting ready to send blast of fire. Mito, however, had sent her chains to surround him. Like snakes, the chains rose up and sent in for a strike from all sides. Aang, seeing this, quickly stopped and earth-bended walls all around him to stop the chains. However, that did not stop the chain, so he quickly blasted himself in the air and sent a jet stream of air at her. Mito had to once again form a chain barrier. "Enough!" she shouted and shot her chains all around the hallway. The chains embedded themselves in the ceiling and then pulled them back. The hallway quickly collapsed. Aang used his earth bending and formed a ball of earth around himself. Mito merely covered herself with her chains. Once the hallway was complete collapse, she quickly sent her chains to latch onto the earth ball and sent it flying out into the sea. Aang, seeing that he was flung out of the destroyed palace, quickly released himself from the ball and formed a water vortex to stay above the water. Mito looked at a cargo ship that is docked at the palace port and smirked. "I always wanted to do this," she said, and sent all of her chains towards the cargo ship and started to pull the ship up. She was sweating really hard trying to lift the ship. "Erg!" With a yell, she lifted the cargo ship and sent it flying at Aang. Aang, seeing this, quickly formed the sharpest wind blade he could and cut the incoming ship in half. He was too distracted to see a follow-up chain attack coming towards him. His eyes widened and he saw his life flash by. He then saw Katara. "No!" he yelled and entered his avatar state and smacked the chain away. He looked at Mito and sent massive wave towards her. He used the air to make them faster. Mito formed walls of chains to stop the wave. The chains held and she brought them down. However, a very strong gust of air slammed right into her. She was blasted back into a building. "Damn, that hurt," she said as she held her head. She brought down her hand to see that she was bleeding from the head. She tried to get up but found herself caught by water wipes. "Ah, hell," he said as she was pulled out the building and was held up to Aang. "Stand down and I won't have to kill you," Aang said in many different voices. Mito responded by sending a golden chain at him. Aang just water bending and crushed the chain. "Screw you," she yelled in defiance. "So be it," he said as he formed a spear of water next to him and launched it at her. Mito tried to form some chains, but the spear pierced the weak chain barrier. The spear went straight through her stomach. Her eyes widened and she coughed out blood. She looked down to see a hole through her stomach. She started to lose strength and close her eyes. Aang stopped bending the water that was holding up her and let her fall. "Mito!" Mito looked to her right as she fell to see her brother. Brother, Mito said as she closed her eyes. Mito, Naruto yelled. He quickly used a devastating wind jutsu at the avatar, blowing him away. He quickly grabbed Mito. He tried to heal her, but it wasn't working. Mito. Mito. Oh god, please no. Work, damn it. Naruto yelled as he tried to heal his sister's wound. Mito brought her hand and caressed her brother's cheek and smiled. Thank you, brother, for, always, being there, for me, she said as she closed her eyes. Naruto's eyes widened. His sister was going to die. His mind was such a mess that he didn't realize that he was pulled in his mindscape. There sat his ancestor. Naruto looked at him. What are you doing? I have to save my sister, Naruto said as he tried to leave, but was stopped. Naruto, you can't save her, the white-haired man stated. Naruto looked at him darkly. What do you mean? Naruto asked him. The white-haired man sighed. Naruto, she was struck down by Avatar while he was in his avatar state. Not many people know this, but when the avatar is in that state, all his elements have his spirit in them. This means that should the avatar deliver a killing blow during in his avatar state, then the target's will and soul are completely destroyed. Not even your Rinnegan can bring her back because there's no soul to bring back. The old man explained. Naruto's eyes widened and he sank down his knees. His sister was dead, and even his ability to bring back the dead couldn't save her. His dear littler sister was dead. It felt worse than his father's death. Tears started to leak out his eyes, and soon he started to cry loudly and uncontrollably. The old man looked on at his descendant in sorrow. Then it hit him. Naruto, there is one way to save her, the man said. Naruto looked up at him with red puffed eyes. His eyes held the smallest bit of hope. If there was a way to save his sister, he would go to hell and back. He would do it for all of his family. Tell me, Naruto asked/demanded. The old man sighed. Listen, Naruto, and listen well. This is the last of my soul, and I can only do one thing, and that will be to save your sister. This is your mindscape, so time moves faster here, so your sister's soul has yet to be destroyed completely. I can use my reaming soul and power to mend the gaps in her soul and pull it back together. However, to do this I need your power to bring back the dead, since I'm going to need that to pull the piece of my soul into her. The power to bring back the dead does not only bring them back but also heal them on the spot, and that is also why I need that ability. However, if I do take that power, you will never be able to bring the dead back to life. You will lose one of your paths, forever since. What is your choice? The old man asked him. Naruto looked at him with hope. This was a no-brainer for Naruto. He wanted to save his sister, and if it meant his death, so be it. Yes, I want to save my sister. So take it, Naruto replied. The old man nodded and instructed Naruto to make the hand signs need to begin. Naruto soon exited the mindscape and looked down to see his sister's eyes almost closing. He quickly did 4 hand signs and put his right hand on her head. Then he yelled, "Lost arts, soul mending." He yelled, and soon a blue hue passed through him and into his sister. Soon Mito's wounds started to close and she opened her eyes slowly. She was confused. She was sure that she had died, but she was alive. She looked up to see the crying face of her brother. Mito. Oh, thank God. I thought I lost you, Naruto said as he hugged his sister. Mito smiled and hugged him back. She was still feeling pretty weak and her eyes started to close again. Naruto, noticing this, quickly put her down, and just in time as a few Uzu Black Ops appeared. Take her to the medical wing and protect her like your life depends on it, understood? Naruto ordered them. They all nodded before taking Mito away. Naruto then looked at the direction the avatar was sent flying. He started to walk slowly to the fallen avatar. Aang opened his eyes and started to get up. He didn't know what happened. A second he was about to die, and now he was in a crater. He got up to see Naruto walking towards him very slowly. His red bangs air covering his eyes. Aang at the time knew that the redhead was pissed. He didn't know what he had done, but he was pretty sure that it had really pissed off the redhead. Aang, fearing for his life, quickly got up and tried to retreat, but found him being pulled back by an unknown force. He turned around to see Naruto's right hand point at him in a pulling back motion, and in his left hand was black rod. He quickly sent spears of water at him. Naruto was forced to move, but he quickly countered him with a water dragon. Aang quickly water bended the dragon into the water. Naruto then smirked. He went through a few hand signs. Secret jutsu, 1,000 needles of death. Naruto muttered, and all around Aang the water rose and started to form into small needles, and they soon turned into ice. Soon the small needles all launched at him. Aang quickly slammed his fists together and formed a small air bubble around him that deflected the needles. Water style, giant vortex. Naruto muttered and launched a water vortex at Aang. Aang, too busy, was caught in the vortex. He was forced to hold his breath and ride out the vortex. The vortex finally ended and Aang was able to get out. However, he was starting to lose his energy. Water style. Water missile. Naruto yelled, and just that small spears of water launched out of the water like missiles. Aang once again was forced to dodge them, but some did hit him. This was crazy. The redhead was throwing out water-based attack like it was nothing, and he wasn't even a bender. Lighting style. Lighting strike. Naruto yelled. Great, he knew lighting-based attack as well? Wait. Lighting, water, shit. Shit indeed, because as soon as Naruto called out the attack, the sky darkened and lighting strike down at Aang. It was electrifying to say the least. He was already drenched with water and now he was being struck with lighting. It was a miracle that he was still alive. The lighting stopped and Aang fell to the ground. Smoke was rising from his body as he looked up at the darkened sky. So this was it? This was how he died. Just as Naruto was about to attack again to finish him off, a bunch of water and earthbenders interpreted him. Naruto growled at them. Then he noticed the flying bison. Aang, come on. We have to leave. The invasion failed. Sokka yelled out as he quickly grabbed Aang and pulled in on Appa. Soon they were airborne. Naruto tried to stop them but was cut off by the enemy benders. He looked at them with pure rage. There were about 30 of them. They had surrounded him and all launched different attack. Naruto quickly dodged the attacks and quickly materialized a black rod before shooting it at one of them. The rod made impact and blew up. The rod took the 5 others with him. Naruto then materialized a katana and quickly started to slaughter the benders with brutal efficiency, just like how Madara did one time during the Fourth War. That scene was just so epic. By the end of it all, Naruto had blood all over his cloths and some on his face. He looked up and knew that the avatar was long gone by now. Still in his rage, he roared into the sky as the sky darkened even more and rain started to fall. Naruto calmed down. His mother's voice called out. He looked back to see his mother in her battle uniform and had some blood on it. He knew that his mother was not the one to sit back and watch as her home was invaded. Mother, Mito, almost died, Naruto said as tears once again started to fall down his eyes. He looked down in shame. He failed. How could he have failed? He promised that he would never allow anything to harm his sister. Kushina quickly hugged her son. She was informed of her daughter's conduction, and when she had gone into a kill spree. It's okay, Naruto. Mito is just fine, Kushina said as he comforted her son. But I failed, mother. She almost died. He replied. Kushina sighed. No, you didn't, Naruto. You protected your sister and saved her from death. You know that your sister looks up to and wished to be just like you. But how can she if you keep being overly protective? She knew that risk of fighting the Avatar. Know this, Naruto. Mito wants you to be proud in her. She wants you to know that she can hold her own. You should be proud in her, just like how I am proud in both of you, she said as she smiled down at her son. Naruto nodded. He could not protect her forever. 5 hours later. It has been a few hours since the invasion had occurred. They had been able to capture many enemy benders thanks to Uzu Black Ops, one of the benders being Katara. Naruto had noticed her when the prisoners were being marched to a special prison made for benders. It was all steel with no water source or earth. However, right now Naruto stood next to Claire as they both stood in front of his mother and sister. Oh, who's this, Naruto? Is she your girlfriend? Did you finally decide to settle down? Kushina asked. A few feet back, Toph's hand twitched and her sister noticed it. Naruto just sighed, while Claire just blushed. No, mother. She is not my girlfriend. It would be weird for a brother and sister to be such a thing, Naruto said. Kushina and Mito raised an eyebrow. What did he mean, why sister? Naruto sighed and started to explain everything about his little adventure. So you are my daughter now? Kushina asked. Claire nodded while keeping her head down. Would she be liked by her family? However, she was broken out of her though when Mito hugged her. Sweet. I have a big sister now. I always wanted a big sister since I find big sisters to be cooler, Mito said. Naruto meanwhile was bent down on his knees and drawing circles on the ground with a black cloud over his head. Big sister, cooler, he muttered. Kushina just sweet dropped at her son's reaction. She went over to Claire and gave her a hug. Well, welcome to the family, Claire, Kushina said. Kushina was never the one to turn away a family member, even if they were adoptive. Plus she would finally have one of her children's at home to talk to and play around with. Both Mito and Naruto were always out and came back only when they could. With Claire, however, she would remain here and she could bond with her mother and her uncle. Kushina sighed. Her brother was a strange one. He was always carefree and just liked to mess around with people, even with her. Naruto just smiled as he looked at his mother and sister talking with their new family member. However, his face turned serious when he thought about that girl. To-Ren, follow me, Naruto said as he and the two girls exited the room and headed to the prison. Why don't you just ask him out? To-Ren whispered to her sister. What? What do you mean ask him out? I don't like him, she stated, but the blush on her face said otherwise. Don't like who? Naruto asked as he turned back to them. To snickered as her sister tried to say something. Well, you see, Toph likes this one guy, but he's too dense to notice that she likes him. To said, hoping that Naruto gets the hint. Naruto looked at her and then to Toph and closed his eyes. I see, well, don't give up on him. He might notice you, Naruto said as he turned back and kept walking. Both sisters face-palmed at the denseness of the redhead. Toph sighed. Why did she like that fool? He was kind, considered, sexy and many other things. Then she blinked. She didn't just like him. She loved him. Then she sighed again. Just how the hell was she going to make him notice her? Soon they stopped at the prison and stopped in front of cell. Stand guard here and do not let anyone enter, Naruto ordered and both nodded. He entered the cell to find a chained-up Katara. He then sat down on a chair and closed his eyes. What do you want? She spat at him. Naruto opened his eyes. You will tell me everything. If not, then you will face something far more worse than death, Naruto answered as his Rinnegan shinned in the darkness, sending shivers down her spine. She had never faced an enemy like this and all her mind was telling her was to run or better yet answer everything. Either way, this was going to end badly for her. Aang slowly started to wake up. The last he remembered was Sokka taking him away from the battlefield. Wait, away? He quickly shot up and looked around. He noticed that only he and Sokka were on Appa. Sokka, what happened? And where is Katara? Aang asked. Sokka turned around and sighed. Aang, the invasion failed. We were doing well when this red-haired woman appeared out of nowhere and started to completely destroy our forces. Along with her were many different soldiers clad in different uniforms. We couldn't even touch them, much less get break through their line. Much of our troops were killed and a few hundred were captured. Katara and Zuko were one of the captured, Sokka explained. A look of worry formed on Aang's face. Sokka, we have to go back. We have to save Katara and the others, Aang cried out. However, he was cut off when Sokka slapped him. Aang, get a hold of yourself. Look, there is no way we can go back. We underestimated the Whirlpool forces. Each and every one of their people is trained for war and ready to defend, and even if we go back we will most likely be killed. We are all that remains of the invasion force, and as much as I hate to say it, we have to return back to the Earth Kingdom. We can save my sister and Zuko later, Sokka said. Aang wanted to say something, but there was nothing to say. They were beaten and now had to retreat. This was not just a defeat. This was a crushing defeat, and it would only fuel the mass of the world to turn against their leaders and throw open their arms to Whirlpool. He lay back down and sleep soon took him over. Whirlpool Prison. Naruto had just gotten through Katara and he knew everything. He knew all the Avatar's plans now, not that he needed to know. Now he was standing in front of Zuko, the former prince of the Fire Nation. What do you want? Zuko asked with rage in his eyes. Oh, nothing. Just wanted to talk to the prince of the Fire Nation. Naruto sighed. Zuko growled and narrowed his eyes. I am not a prince of the Fire Nation, not anymore. Zuko spat out. Ah yes. That is true. You can't be a prince if your nation is longer around, Naruto said. What do you mean? Zuko asked. Oh, you haven't heard? You see, when you and your littler friends were attacking my home, the Fire Nation's people decided to rebel against the Fire Lord. Our forces aided them in their rebellion. However, there was a complication. You see, the Earth King had a few of his agents within the Fire Nation that used our propaganda to their advantage. When the rebellion took place, the Earth King's agents quickly took charge of the rebellion. However, we found that out soon and acted like nothing was wrong. But then the rebels took over the palace. We took them all out. The Fire Lord, his loyalists, the rebels, the Earth King's agents. All of them were killed in our airstrikes. Not only we killed the Fire Lord, but we have also wiped out all rebellious elements. The Fire Nation is now under Whirlpool rule. Naruto explained and started to laugh when the look of horror appeared on Zuko's face. Naruto's eye then changed into the Rinnegan. Now then, let's begin, Naruto said as Zuko stared at Naruto's Rinnegan. Few minutes later, Naruto walked out the cell and started to walk out with Toph and her sister right behind him. Toph, building up the courage, asked him a question. Naruto, what kind of girls do you like? Toph asked. To-Ren almost tripped at her sister's question. However, Naruto though about the question for a bit. Well, I like a strong woman who can hold her own, but she is also kind and caring, kind of like you I guess. Naruto answered. However, as he answered the question he started to think of many things that Toph was. She was strong and was very kind and caring, if you knew her that is. She's also cute. Naruto thought. Really? Well then I was wondering if you would like to go out with me. Toph shouted out with her eyes closed. All she got was laughter as a response. She opened her eyes to see just an outline of Naruto's figure and her sister laughing. What's so funny, and why are you laughing? Toph asked her sister. Well you see, Ren pointed to where Naruto was at. A ramen stand. Wait, does that mean that he? Toph tried to say. Her sister just nodded and patted her on the back as she cried anime tears. She was asking the blonde out when the whole time he was eating ramen, in the tons. Don't worry Toph. You will get your chance. Her sister reassured her. Toph sighed and nodded. Seriously, how hard was it to get one guy to pay attention to you? It's like the writer of this story just wants to mess around with her. She sighed once more and followed their blonde leader. A week later. It has been a week since the attack on Whirlpool had occurred. Naruto and the rest of his forces had returned back to the front lines, and as such Naruto was overlooking the city of Ba Sing Se. The tanks were completed and were ready to commence the operation any minute. However, before that could happen he had to exchange some prisoners. During his time to absence the Avatar and his allies were able to capture a few of his men and were now holding them hostage. He was about to lose some of his men just because he did not care for their lives. These were his soldier who had family back home, and as the old saying goes, the object of war is not to die for your country but to make the other bastard die for his. I hope you all know where that quote is from. He needed to make a trade and thankfully he knew just the people to trade for. Behind him stood 120 captured enemy benders including Katara and Zuko. He started to walk up to the city wall and stopped right in the middle of the city and his forces. Avatar Aang, I would like to make a trade with you. Release my 46 men and I in turn shall release all 120 prisoners from your failed invasion. Do note that these prisoners include your beloved Katara and your close friend Zuko. Failure to comply shall lead to the execution of all 120 prisoners of war before sundown. Naruto gave his ultimatum. He knew that the Avatar was still a child, and as a child he had very little control over emotions. He would use those emotions to his advantage. As soon as he started to walk back he felt someone land right behind him. He turned around to see Aang standing before him. So, what is your answer? Naruto asked. Aang thought about it once more before sighing. Look, isn't there a peaceful way we can solve this? I mean, look at how many people have died because of this war. Aang tried to reason with Naruto. Causalities? There are estimated 1,968 casualties throughout our little war. If you compare that to the 20,340 casualties that took place when the Fire Nation was waging war, I believe that this war was not that destructive at all. There is now no peaceful way to avoid this, not after you invaded my home and almost killed my sister. Now give me your answer, because if you don't the number of lives lost is going to go up by 120. Naruto answered. He wasn't here to talk philosophy or any of that. He came here with demands and he needed a yes or a no. The world is not black and white, Avatar. That is what you fail to see. Not everyone is nice and trusting like your friends are or your allies. After all, if everyone were a good person, it'd obviously be a better world, but that is not possible. It is not possible because people do not have an understanding with each other. All these nations talk and argue about what is right or wrong, while the masses suffer the consequences of actions taken by their leaders. The people don't have faith in one another due to the constant war and suffering, and a better world shall emerge based on faith and understanding, even if I have to use blood and iron. Whirlpool is the land of opportunities where even a poor man can rise up to become a rich man. All it takes is self-determination. Now what is your answer? Naruto asked once more. Aang wanted to say something, to argue with his belief, but he had nothing to say. Sighing once more he nodded. Very well, I shall accept your deal. Aang said. Naruto smirked. Good, all according to plan, he's taken the bait, Naruto thought. Soon the prisoners were exchanged from both sides. Night time. Everyone was having a good time at the Whirlpool campsites. Soldiers were sings, talking about what they would do once the war's over, drinking with their buddies. Everyone was having a good time. Naruto was walking around looking at them all. This was just the calm before the storm. Tomorrow the battle for Ba Sing Se would begin. Lately he was thinking a lot about Toph. He had been ever since she had asked that question. He could never really understand women, but for some strange reason he was drawn to Toph from the very start. The first time he laid eyes on her he felt something. It wasn't something like friendship or camaraderie. He felt as if there was something more. Was it friendship? Or was it something more? Like love? He shook his head. When he was young he never believed in love at first sight, but what if that was the cause? Sighing to himself he quickly took a drink and headed off to bed. He would deal with it after the war was over. Next day, the sun was high in the sky as soldiers prepared for the upcoming battle. This was the hardest battle they would have to fight. Naruto stood on top of his command vehicle looking around as his men got ready. "Attention me!" Naruto yelled out. Soon all the soldiers stopped what they were doing and saluted him. "It is good to see you all here today, and it will be even better seeing you breaking through that wall." The soldiers all cheered. "Then we will teach those dogs how to fight," he cried out as soldiers cheered on once more. "Today we will show them the might of a whirlpool." Just as Naruto stretched out his arms, a squadron of jets flew above him and towards the enemy wall. P-1000. "Ready the first salvo." The officer in charge of the loading section yelled out. "First salvo ready," one of the loaders replied. Soon the barrels started to move up to match the target coordinates. "Cover your ears." Everyone covered their ears. This was going to hurt their ears like hell. Fire! Just like that, 6 naval-class shells were launched towards their target and they tore through 4 different sections of the walls. The wall had indeed been cracked, but still stood strong. Ready the second salvo. Soon the second salvo was ready. Fire! Once again the shells hit the wall, but this time the 4 sections of the wall completely blew up. Target has been hit and destroyed. Switch targets to the inner city walls, the commander stated. They would deal with the other walls. For now the ground forces were to start their attack. With Naruto. Naruto smirked as he saw a section of the wall blow up. He grabbed his radio and turned it on. "Operation Crushing Earth is a go." I repeat, Operation Crushing Earth is a go. All units moved to attack. Naruto ordered, and just like that the attack in Ba Sing Se had begun. Armored vehicles soon started to pour through the 4 destroyed sections of the walls. The earthbenders tried to bend the earth and make makeshift walls, however whirlpool tanks quickly destroyed the walls. It wasn't easy for the earthbenders since they could hear the massive P-1000 shells flying over them that alone put the fear of God in them. As the tanks advanced forwards, armored troop carriers followed closely behind and unloaded troops as they advanced forward. "Enemy benders. Right building, 2nd floor." A spotter shouted out. The tank's crew complied and blew the building sky high. There was fighting everywhere. Ba Sing Se had small narrow streets, as such the earthbenders were able to block most of the streets. However, that didn't help as Whirlpool's own earthbenders cleared the paths. "We have to fall back to the inner wall. The south side of the city is lost," an earthbender called out. However, before he could get a response, the Whirlpool forces launched red smoke. "Why are they launching red smoke?" the squad leader asked. However, he soon felt a sharp pain in his stomach. He looked down to see a spike of earth sticking out of gut. He looked back to see his own comrade had killed him. "WW, what are you doing?" he asked as he spat out blood. He was a dead man and he knew it. "Glory to Whirlpool," his comrade responded before running off to the inner wall. He wasn't the only one. 118 earthbenders had turned on their own comrade and were causing havoc among their own ranks. Meanwhile, Whirlpool forces were rapidly advancing through the city. However, their advance was halted before a massive earth wall just rose up from the ground. This was the result of many earthbenders working together, but even then the wall was destroyed by tank fire and heavy shelling from the P-1000s. "What the hell is going on?" an earthbender asked as he dodged another strike from his fellow earthbender. "I don't know. But some of our benders are tuning against us. We have to fall back to the inner walls," another one replied. Seeing no other choice, the earthbenders started to fall back. However, along the way they had to kill their own comrades who had turned on them. With Naruto. Naruto smirked. There were many ways to defeat an enemy, but to break his spirit was the most effective. He had all 120 prisoners brainwashed and had made them sleep or sell. The trigger for their sudden attack on their own allies was the red smoke. Now there was disorder among their ranks. "Sir, company commanders are asking our policy concerning sleeper agents," an officer asked. Naruto thought about this for a while. While the sleeper cells indeed were helping his forces, they were however brainwashed, and once their intended task was completed they would return to normal. "Kill them. In fact, we have no need for Earth soldier prisoners altogether. All Earth Kingdom soldiers are to be killed, even if they are surrendering," Naruto ordered. The officer nodded before relaying the order. He did so because he knew that even if taken prisoners they would still try to cause problems or worse, cause civil unrest through rebellion. He wasn't taking any chances. "I'll leave you in charge. Toph, follow me," Naruto ordered Ren as he and Toph ran off, most likely towards the Earth King's palace. "Why the hell did he put me in charge?" she sighed. True that she had led soldiers before, but never at such a scale. At least the company commanders could hold their own. "Orders?" an officer asked. She sighed. This was bound to give her headaches. Earth King Palace. Everything was falling apart. The attack on Ba Sing Se had begun and they were losing badly. If that wasn't enough, about 100 earthbenders turned against their own comrades and were fighting against them. Now the Dai Li were launching a coup d'etat. "You can't do this," Aang yelled as he and his friend were forced out of the palace as they fought Dai Li agents. "To ensure the survival of our kingdom, we in fact can." Long Feng replied with a smirk. This was his chance. He would overthrow that foolish king and lead the Earth Kingdom to glory. "If you haven't noticed, Ba Sing Se is under attack and we are losing badly. There won't be an Earth Kingdom if Ba Sing Se falls," Katara cried out. Long Feng laughed like a madman in response. "Oh, don't worry. Let's see if the Whirlpool forces have what it takes to kill innocent civilians," he said. Aang's eyes widened in realization. "You wouldn't?" he asked. All he got was a nod in response. "Whirlpool forces? Huh? What the hell?" "Hold your fire," a soldier cried out. Soon all Whirlpool forces had ceased fire across all fronts. "Those bastards," a company commander yelled out. "Orders, sir?" a soldier asked. "Do not fire. Those are all civilians and we have orders not to harm civilians at all cost," he ordered. Across them were earthbenders that were holding their own people hostage. All across the Ba Sing Se earthbenders were holding their own people prisoners. Whirlpool forces were forced to stop their advance. With Naruto and Toph, Naruto looked over the city of Ba Sing Se through the inner wall. He spotted earthbenders holding their own people hostage. He frowned. He had not calculated this. Then again, this was the Dai Li he was dealing with. He looked back and saw the inner city and sneered. The inner city was only for those that were wealth and had control in the political chain of the Earth Kingdom. He looked back to see the outer city. It was for the poor, those that were labeled as nothing more than peasants, and this inner wall was a symbol of class division. This would have to go, but first he needed to demonstrate a show of power. He did a few hand signs. Toph meanwhile stood by him and looked over the city. She hated how the city was divided. She never cared if you were wealth or poor. All she cared about was what kind of person you were. She had seen Uzushio-Gakure. That city was huge, bigger than Ba Sing Se, and there was not a single wall there that was designed to create class barrier. "Tengai Shinsei," she heard Naruto call out, and soon she felt tremors. She looked up and her jaw dropped. There was a huge day meteorite falling from the sky. Everyone could see it and everyone was looking at it with awe. Naruto soon picked up Toph bridal style and applied chakra to his feet. He didn't see Toph blush and snuggle in his chest. Soon the meteorite crashed against the small section of the inner city and sent a shockwave through the inner city. The outer city was safe due to the inner wall shielding the shockwave. So shocked were the Earth Kingdom's forces that they didn't notice Whirlpool benders free the civilians, who were quickly sent behind Whirlpool lines. Soon the offensive was renewed. "Toph, I want you to destroy this wall. Can you do it?" Naruto asked. Toph thought about it. Could she? She could try her. "Yes, I can, Naruto," she replied. Naruto nodded and jumped down the wall with a screaming Toph in his hands. As soon Naruto landed, he let go off Toph. As she stood tall facing the wall with her eyes closed, she took in a large breath. This was the first time she would be trying this. However, if she was able to create metal bending, then the idea behind this should be the same. She opened her and did a wave-like motion with her hands and slammed them into the ground. At first nothing happened, but then all of a sudden lava shot towards the base of the wall. "Yes!" she yelled and slammed her foot to the ground, and just like a domino effect, the wall started to collapse. "Toph, I didn't know you could bend lava," Naruto said with awe. He knew that she could bend metal, but lava? She might as well create an island with that ability. Toph grinned like she was a kid in a candy store. She was soon picked up by Naruto once more, much to her delight. "Hold on tight," Naruto said and started running towards the palace. With Aang. "Sir, it appears that the inner wall has fallen, and thanks to that meteorite our forces were stunned, causing the enemy to secure the civilians," a Dai Li reported to Long Feng. "What?" However, before he could ask, the inner wall soon fell. "It's over, Feng. Give up and actually try to help us," Aang yelled. Feng just sneered at him. However, before he could do anything, he found a sword sticking out of his chest. He looked back to see Naruto, still holding Toph, with his sword going through Feng's heart. Naruto soon let go of Toph, who quickly started to drive away the Dai Li agents as Naruto focused on the Avatar in his little group. "So it was your idea to use your own people as a shield? Disgraceful," Naruto said before beheading the man. Aang meanwhile was shaken up by the brutality that he had just witnessed. However, he was soon forced to dodge a lighting dragon that was aimed for him. Zuko tried to redirect the dragon, but was instead shocked by it. He was on his knees panting hard. Katara meanwhile started to heal him. "Fire style, fire wave." Naruto cried out on a wave of fire towards Aang. Aang quickly used his air bending to put the fire out, but was hit by a follow-up attack. "Earth style, crushing walls." Naruto muttered as 4 walls rose up around Aang and quickly moved towards him. Aang jumped high into the air to avoid being smashed by the walls. "Wind style, air bullet." This time Naruto shot bullets of air towards Aang. Aang, having enough, went on the offensive and sent a blast of fire towards Naruto, who quickly summoned a water dragon to put the fire out. Aang soon landed on the ground and tried to trap Naruto in the ground, but that failed when Naruto quickly dodged the earth that tried to grab him. Aang stopped some water and quickly water bended it around himself to make it look like an octopus. He tried to grab Naruto, who retaliated by sending bolts of lightning at the water octopus. Once again Aang was electrified but was still standing. He let go of the water octopus and shot shards of earth towards Naruto. "Earth style, earth wall." Naruto muttered before throwing up a blob of earth that soon became a massive wall that stopped all the shards in its place. "You know, for a child you fight well," Naruto said. Aang meanwhile was trying to catch his breath. He had fought people before, but never people who aimed to kill him. It was always trying to capture him. Not only that, but this time he had to fight to kill or else he would be killed instead. Naruto was about to talk, but was hit by a boomerang. He grunted in annoyance and looked towards the owner of the boomerang. "Scour one for the boomerang," Sokka yelled out with a grin. Naruto looked at him before he too grinned. "You know, your sister caused a lot of trouble in back at my home, and I know that you were the one behind the attack. Tell me, has your sister ever tried to hurt you?" Naruto asked Sokka. "Hurt me? She would never do that," Sokka answered with confidence. Naruto grinned even more. "Really? Well, I guess there's a first time for everything," Naruto said before doing a single hand sign. Sokka was confused by what he meant, however the confusion was soon replaced by pain as he looked down to see a water spear that had just pierced his heart. He looked back to see his sister, Katara, had just pierced his heart by a water spear. Aang looked back and his eyes widened. "Sokka!" Aang cried out. "Sokka!" Aang yelled as he watched Sokka fall to the ground dead. He looked back to Katara to see that she was about to attack him. "Katara, stop. What's wrong with you? You just killed your brother," Aang said as he dodged an ice spear. Katara said nothing but continued to attack. "Katara, please, come to your senses. I don't know what he did to you, but please." Aang tried to reason with her. She hesitated before she attacked him again. Aang quickly trapped her and prevented her arms from moving. "Aang, you must kill me." She tried to speak out. "No, Katara, I can't. I love you too much to kill you," Aang responded before he killed at Naruto. "Please. I beg you. Just leave her be. I'll do anything you ask," Aang begged Naruto. Naruto just shook his head. "You don't get it, don't you? This is war. I am doing this out of revenge, but simple because she is the enemy, and as an enemy I will do everything I can to break my enemy. Look around you, Avatar. Just how much of war have you seen? How much of death have you seen? How much of pain have you seen? How much of suffering have you seen? While you and your friends traveled the world to master the elements, the people suffered. While you and your friends had fun adventure, others fought for their lives just to get by day by day. This is your fault, Aang. You abandoned the world 100 years ago. This wouldn't be happening if you just would have manned up 100 years ago and accepted the fact that you were the Avatar, and instead of mastering the elements you should have used a political and social pull to bring about reforms to the nations. But what do? You run away. You always run away. Now watch as your beloved friends fight to kill you." Naruto responded to Aang's plea, and just like that, Katara broke free of her earth prison and resumed her assault on Aang. Zuko tried to help Aang out, but his fire was put out by Katara's water. "Zuko, I need you to distract her. I got to get close to her and break free of whatever is controlling her," Aang ordered Zuko. He quickly started to mediate, and just like that he entered the Avatar state. As Zuko was distracting Katara, Aang quickly got behind her and put his hand on her head. Both of them just stood there, and soon Aang's Avatar state had died down. He had taken a gamble and used his Avatar energy to release Katara from the mind control she was suffering from. Weakly, Katara turned around to a teary-eyed Aang. You're okay. Thank the spirits you're okay, Aang said as he hugged her. Katara hugged back and soon backed up and looked towards her dead brother. Sokka. Aang, what happened? Katara asked him. Aang looked down in sadness. Katara, while you were under Naruto's mind control, you killed your brother. He answered. Katara's eyes widened and she just broke down and started to cry. I am surprised that you broke my control over her. Oh well, at least I have one more, Naruto said as he did a single hand sign again. Aang was confused once more before his eyes widened in understanding. He looked back to Katara to see a fist of fire going through her heart. Katara looked back to see that it was in fact Zuko's fist going through her chest. Why? She asked him. Glory to Whirlpool, Zuko answered before pulling the fire fist out. Aang watched as Katara fell slowly to the ground, dead. His wide eyes still glued to her lifeless form and he dropped down to his knees. Tears started to leak out of his eyes. Katara was dead. How could he have let this happen? How did he let this happen? Zuko then started to walk to Aang, but was forced to dodge when a stream of fire passed by him. He looked back to see his uncle Iroh. Zuko. What is the meaning of this? Iroh asked in rage. He had just arrived, only to find his nephew killing one of his friend, and not just any friend, but the Avatar's girlfriend. Everything that is done is for the glory of Whirlpool, Zuko replied in monotone voice. Iroh now understood why his nephew did what he did. He is under the control of that redhead. Release my nephew from your control at once, Iroh demanded Naruto. Naruto looked at the old man for a second. No. Naruto answered before he started to move towards the Avatar. Iroh tried to stop him, but he was blocked by Zuko. He gritted his teeth and realized that he had no choice but to fight his nephew. Only the Avatar could release him of the control he was under. Naruto approached the still shocked Avatar. As he approached, he started to do hand signs. As he was about 10 feet away from the Avatar, he stopped and finished his hand sign. Lost Arts, Spirit Extraction, Naruto said and slammed his hands in the ground. Soon a seal appeared on the ground and raced towards Aang. The seals quickly started to cover Aang and soon they stopped. They started to glow before Aang let out a scream. Soon a spirit was being pulled out of him. The spirit had tattoos of light blue and was white. The spirit looked down on Naruto and tried to attack, but found that she wasn't able to move. Do you realize what you were about to do? The spirit of Rava asked Naruto, meanwhile started to do a long set of hand signs. I know what I am doing, you obsolete relic of the past, and to be quite frank, you are weaker than your enemy Vadu, who is dead, thanks to me. I killed him during my time at the South Pole. You see, I felt a strange energy during my time there and realized that it was very much like the Avatars, but was very dark. The old fool tried to take over my body, but I destroyed his spirit before he could attempt. Naruto answered. Rava was shocked to learn that her longtime enemy was dead. Was this the reason why she could feel the spirit world dying? After all, the point of Vadu's seal also acted as a gateway to the spirit world. However, the spirit world needed this world to survive. If she were to fall, then the gateway to the spirit world would collapse and would sever all connections to this world and the spirit world. This was all because the spirit world was too attached to this world. However, this world was far larger than the spirit world. Should the connection be cut, the spirit world would destroy itself. This would cause all spirits that did not take on a physical form like the moon and the sea spirit to die. She had to stop this boy from doing something like that. However, Naruto had soon finished his jutsu. Lost Arts, Spirit Destruction, Naruto yelled. Rava soon started to feel a massive drain on her power. You fool, do you not realize that without the spirit world there would be no more benders? Rava bluffed. Naruto chuckled. Do you take me for a fool? The spirit world and the art of bending have nothing to do with each other. I know for a fact that it was the lion turtles that gave the people the ability to bend, but only when the people went out to travel through the spirit world. They were supposed to return that ability after they came back from the spirit world. The only reason the lion turtle stopped doing that was because of the first avatar, when he closed up both portals to the spirit world. As such, the lion turtles did not need to give the ability to bend. However, they also didn't take away the ability to bend. Naruto answered. How do you know of this? Rava asked in outrage. This boy knew more than he should. It helps when you have found the world's oldest library. Though the spirit that created the library was quite aggressive, as such he had to be dispatched. How I know more than just that. In fact, it was you and Vata that opened the spirit world portals far before the time of the Avatar or my ancestor. Your foolish actions caused the spirits to attack the human civilizations. Your actions sent humanity back severely 100 years. I guess we got lucky when Whirlpool was able to retain a few bits and pieces of the past. The world didn't need an avatar in the past. Only through you and your enemy's actions was the avatar needed. The world does not need you. Humanity can stand on its own. Naruto explained as he watched the spirit of Rava scream out in pain as it slowly dissolved into nothing. Naruto watched as the avatar's body fell over lifelessly. The avatar was dead and would stay dead forever, and the spirit world was now destroyed. He looked back to see Iroh having a hard time trying to stop his nephew. He wasn't fighting to kill his nephew, but rather stop him. He noticed that Toph was done dealing with the Dai Li. It's over, Iroh. The avatar is dead and so is the spirit world. We don't need the spirits other than the moon and the sea. Naruto stated. Iroh knew that the boy was telling the truth. In fact, only the moon and the sea spirit had true connections to this world, but that was only because they were forced out of the spirit world. Naruto, seeing that Iroh won't stop, shook his head and decided to end this. He would break Iroh's mind. He formed a single hand sign, and just like that, Zuko stopped before blood started to leak out of his mouth. Iroh dashed forward to grab his nephew. Zuko, what did you do to him? Iroh asked. Naruto looked at Iroh with a blank face. I exploded his heart, thanks to a seal I installed on his chest. He is dead, Naruto said. Iroh's eyes widened and quickly put his ear to Zuko's chest, and he couldn't feel a beat. Just like that, rage overcame Iroh and he sent a stream of hot fire towards Naruto, or so Naruto thought. The fire steam changed direction and headed towards Toph. She quickly bended an earth wall in front of herself, but was a bit too late. The steam of fire hit Toph's right shoulder. Naruto, seeing this, felt rage inside of him, just like how he felt when Mito was almost killed, but this was different. If he was honest with himself, he knew that he liked Toph. From the start, when he first saw her, he knew there was something different about her, and as time went on he realized that Toph was very much like him. Both born in a noble family, and both really went against the norm of nobility, always seeking to help the poor and always being carefree. He quickly sent a stream of lighting and literally fried Iroh. He then ran towards Toph. Toph, are you okay? Naruto asked as Toph gritted her teeth in pain. Does it look like I am okay? Toph asked. Naruto chuckled before he took out a medical kit and started to apply it. Toph looked at him as he was dressing her wounds. She kept looking at him and realized that it was now or never. There, that should much. Naruto was cut off when Toph kissed him right on the lips. At first he was shocked, but then gave in to the kiss. He wrapped her hands around her and closed his eyes. Soon they pulled away because of the need air. What was that for? Naruto asked. Toph rolled her eyes in response. Well, you are just so dense. I just had to make the first move. Toph answered. Naruto was confused for a second before he finally realized. Oh. So that's why you always blushed around me, Naruto said. Toph nodded. Yes, now shut up and kiss me, she said before pulling him into another kiss. As they did, the earth forces started to fall apart and whirlpool forces had pushed through the inner wall and advancing on the palace. By the next day, Ba Sing Se had fallen and the last of the earth forces were eradicated. They had chosen to fight to the last man. Now the flag of Whirlpool flew for the Earth King's palace and the city was slated to be completely rebuilt. The Earth King's palace, however, would not be destroyed and be converted into a government building. A month after the fall of Ba Sing Se, the whole month was hectic. The people know that the Avatar was dead and the war was now over, with the last major city being conquered by Whirlpool forces. The people of Whirlpool, however, celebrated all through the month. For them, justice was delivered by the death of the Avatar and the world was united under one banner, the banner of Whirlpool. Years from now they would tell their children of this day, a day when their dreams became a reality. Now, however, a victory parade was in full swing through the large city streets of Uzushiogakure. Everyone in the city was there to watch the military parade throughout the city. Naruto looked on as the people cheered as military units marched through. The cheering was even louder when tanks or artillery's units passed by. He looked up and noticed that night was almost upon them and soon the fireworks would start. He looked to his right and saw Toph standing next to him and holding his hand. He smiled to himself. During the month they had gone out on a few dates, and needless to say it was possible the best month of his life. A few bangs were heard in the sky as he looked up to see that the fireworks had already started. 7 years later, the world has enjoyed 7 years of peace and advancement. Thanks to Whirlpool, cities like Uzushiogakure could be founded almost everywhere. Everyone had prospered thanks to the new reforms and the new government system introduced by Whirlpool. Yes, the world was at peace. Daddy, when are you going to wake up? Except for Naruto. Naruto opened his eyes to see a 6-year-old girl with red hair and milky clouded eyes. This was Natsuki Uzumaki, the firstborn of Naruto and Toph. While Natsuki had inherited her father's intelligence, she had also inherited her mother's stubbornness, which was even stronger than his. Okay, I'm up Natsuki. Where are your brother and mother? Naruto asked. Mother right now is playing with Toph outside. Come on. You have to come and play too. You promised, she said. Naruto sighed before getting up and following his daughter. As he walked outside he saw Toph playing with their 5-year-old son Rui Uzumaki. Rui had his mother's black hair but a few red streaks and he had his father's eyes. Toph meanwhile had only grown more beautiful throughout the year. So you're finally awake? Toph asked her husband. Naruto sighed once more. Yes, doing paperwork is a long and a hard job. I wonder how my mother always kept up with it without going insane. Not only that, but the Ballesteros Empire is starting to cause trouble again. Naruto replied. About 4 years ago the Ballesteros Empire had attempted to invade Whirlpool territory in order to retrieve Claire, and to his surprise the commander of the said invasion was Carl Law. Needless to say the Ballesteros forces were quickly repelled and a small section of their land was occupied by Whirlpool forces. Ballesteros was forced to withdraw and surrender. Whirlpool demands were outrageous, but they had no choice but to obey them. Toph just sighed. When was Ballesteros ever going to learn their lesson? Well, enough of that, just enjoy the rest of the day, she told him. Naruto smiled and nodded. He was going to have as much fun as he can, because after this it was right back to paperwork. I have got to ask mom how she survived with all this paperwork. Naruto though. Yes, life was good. And guys, this is the end. Hope you enjoyed. See you next